Go ahead.
My name is Cristina Hildebrand from Voice for Choice Advocacy, and we are opposed to this bill. We're not necessarily opposed to home visiting, just make that clear, but we're specifically opposed to the details in this bill. We have great concerns also for our neglected and abused children in California, and we believe there are numerous laws already in statute that address these issues and numerous laws that address home visiting. Our greatest concern is that this really becomes intrusive, and although the people for the bill stated that it was becoming community-based, that's probably the biggest part of our issue with this bill. The fact that it is community-based, that the people going into people's homes are not professionals. So home visiting right now, the home visiting that's done is done by nurses or therapists or people who are trained and professionally trained in that way. This bill takes that away and puts it into the community. There are many bills that have been introduced by the California legislature this session under the guise of child welfare, and they really have a different agenda when you look at them further, with an overarching goal of putting government surveillance in every home. These bills, including SB 426, would monitor the safety in the home, the relationships and the physical surroundings within the home to determine the quality of parenting and the use of health services, including compliance with vaccination schedules and other things, which will then be entered into a central database. Home visiting, the purpose of home visiting, and in many other parts of the statute and other laws that are being put in place this year or that are going through the process this year, is really to give the parents that support. So to give them breastfeeding support, give them diaper services, lactation support, other support that they need at that critical time of having a newborn. We're really concerned that this bill specifically lays out that it's more of a data collection service than it is a home visiting service, and we have real concerns with that, and especially given that it is community centered. The SB 426 states that it will use evidence-based parenting curriculum that is a nurturing parenting program as guided by initial assessment conducted to determine a parent's risk level for child abuse and neglect. But abuse and neglect are not really clearly defined terms, and they're cause for concern when government officials or government-approved employees enter the home of unsuspecting parents. In current California statute, home visitors are clearly defined to be public health nurses, as I mentioned, but this really hands over that to people who aren't trained. All of those community members may have prejudice of some sort and influence their reports on potential child abuse. Some may believe that refusing to vaccinate children or send them to bed without supper for disobedience is physical abuse. Others may say parents who leave their children in daycare are depriving them of family bonding and increasing their risk of illness and injury. The fact that these home visitors have the obligation to report everything they see means that they also have the ability to call CPS on families they deem abusive or neglectful. As you're likely aware, our CPS system is stretched, but it also gets funding for each child that's placed in foster care, giving programs outlined in SB 426 the potential to be coercive at best and corrupt at worst. If this bill passes, the number of reported cases of neglect and abuse are likely to decrease in the areas where the home visiting is conducted, but we believe not necessarily because the program's working, but because the word will have gotten out to families and they go into hiding, similar to immigration issues, because they're scared of the uninvited home visitation services knocking at their door. We really urge your no vote on this for the many reasons that I've said. We claim that it's extreme, and basically you need to ask yourself, would you be willing to have a community member come into your home for those reasons? And so we do urge your no vote.
Thank you very much.
Jocelyn Ball, I'm speaking on behalf of the Justice Reform Coalition, which is an organization that's compiled of several different organizations that all come together to help maintain family, the sanctity of it, and restore families who have been torn apart by our state systems. Several members are here today, and they have been fighting for decades to have the state at least accept or acknowledge the systems that are currently in place to protect the sanctity of family. There has, as of last week, been over $300 million funneled into these programs. And ultimately, the fact that the statistics don't show outcomes for children that are outcomes that are appropriate for that amount of funding says that we as a state and as citizens need to come together to reform these programs that are currently in place rather than put more stress on families and invade their public or private domain. How we do that, I believe, is we look at the current structures and we start using those funds to allow for parents to have real support. None of the current legislation is written to provide that. It seems as though it's written to do the opposite. And so I'm asking you to please consider a no vote on this one.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gaytoy Johnson-Williams, and I'm the founder of an agency, an advocacy agency called Free Indeed. And I am a victim of someone disrupting my home, Children Protective Services, 16 and a half years ago. November will make it 17 years of internal crying, illegal removal of my parental rights. 6 children were removed, 3 were returned. There was never any neglect or abuse. It was proven the night that they took the children from my home and took them to the UCD Medical Center to examine them from the head to the toe. You don't get your children back unless you complete these services. So I don't know how 6 were removed and only 3 returned. My services were done in a timely manner. The removal was illegal in the first place. What I did after 5 or 6 years fighting, like, this is impossible, this is incorrect, what do you mean I'm no longer a mother? What do you mean these ones don't come home? What about the fight that I did for a year to be getting them home and the suffering that I seen my children go through while in the system, being separated from siblings, being separated not just from their mom, but from their brother and sisters and their immediate family. So here we are with the 7-month-old boy and girl twin that's 16 years old that are adopted out, and my 17-year-old son that don't have a relationship at all with and have not been able to hold him or have him overnight since he was 22 months old. So what I did when this happened in 2001, by 2005, 2006, by me learning the law myself, the California Juvenile Dependency Law book, then I went a little bit further to the federal regulations, and I see everything was totally violated, such as we should get visitations, overnight visitations right away, and then we have non-medical people saying that the children are not attached to you, it would be better for permanent placement, so on and so forth. They don't do the things such as get the children to Family First. So I started a nonprofit organization that has not even been established nonprofit-wise, and I've been fighting to this day for other families to give them awareness of their rights, which are not exercised anyway. No matter what you know, if they come to your door and you're frustrated about someone coming to your door, they come to your door, if you don't know that you need to be sugar, butter, creamy with these people, they're coming in. Anyone can make probable cause. So your children are removed whether there's an issue or not. You've got to be really nice with someone that's coming to your home and asking you questions about your parenting. So it's a person against a person, and they're coming in. They're removing the children. So we do need more organizations in placement or more support for advocacy agencies, because even the ones that they have set up that are not advocacy agencies, but things like St. John's, it's not available for everyone, because here I am, a person that's almost 17 years later, still no restoration.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
Okay.
very much.
Thank you all. Is there any additional opposition testimony? If so, please come forward, state your name, your organization, if any, and that you oppose.
Christy Sepulveda-Burchett from Educate Advocate. We serve families with special needs children. Oppose.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Shannon Primer, special needs paralegal and educational advocate. Opposed. Special needs families are already discriminated against, and there's a misconception of things that happen at our homes, so everybody that I represent opposes.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Ashley Proto Abbott, very concerned parent. We need to address the issues of child abuse in the system before we blame the parents any further. Thank you.
Next speaker.
My name is Gabe Silva, and I oppose this is another attack on sanctity of family.
Next speaker.
Hi, may I have a couple minutes to make a comment?
No, I'm sorry. You can want to just be brief.
I just have a story that's similar to one of these ladies' stories. I am against it. My name is Bonnie Gale, and we need to keep the strength in the family and actually allow and empower families to get the help, because oftentimes the help is not available when a family is seeking help.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Paul Gawar. I'm from Family Civil Liberty Union, and I'm absolutely against this. Thank you.
Next speaker.
My name is Linda Mormon. I oppose. I'm from Grandparents' Rights USA.
Next speaker.
I'm Alicia. I'm with MAGA.org, and I oppose this bill. I do not believe that parents should have their rights removed. I do believe that parents that truly need the help should have the help accessible, but I do not believe that the government should be parenting our children. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Ryan Tamayo, California Fathers' Rights Movement, and we oppose.
Okay. Next speaker. We can. Oh.
I'm Susan Ferris from Family Court Accountability Coalition, and I oppose.
Okay. Are there any additional speakers in opposition? If so, please come forward. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cindy Taylor. I'm a concerned parent and grandparent, and I also have the same concerns that non-professionals will be coming in, and I think it's an overreach by the government.
Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Mendez. I oppose this bill also. No government should be raising your kid but a father and a mother.
Okay, is there any additional public testimony in opposition? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Senator Berryhill.
Thank you. Wow. We hardly ever get opposition. I've got some concerns for this dog just because we hardly ever get opposition on any bills here. Our analysis says this is unnecessary because these visitation programs have been used for decades, and so this analysis maintains that a pilot program just simply isn't needed. Can you give maybe some comments to that?
Ms.
Okay,
Boxey
sure,
can answer that.
Absolutely.
No, I'm happy to do that. I guess I'm surprised by that because the data that we have and that's been issued from several very credible sources indicates that less than 5% of the families who would be eligible and would benefit from home visitation services actually have access to them because of the lack of services.
Okay, well, you know, I think I'm going to hold off this bill today and let this thing cook a little bit more. I'm assuming it's going to get out of this committee today, but I'd like to reserve my vote here to see where this thing goes in the next committee and whatnot.
Okay, I support the bill, and I want to thank Dr. Pan. I want to thank you for your continued and consistent advocacy for children in various bills that you have authored. In fact, one bill which I strongly supported, the vaccine bill, has resulted in a significant increase in children's vaccination. So these bills do have a positive impact in really improving the health of children. And although overwhelmingly families do a phenomenal job raising their children, there are times when we have to play a role in making sure that kids are safe and healthy. And so I support this bill. And with that, if you'd like to close.
So first of all, I want to say that the opposition testimony in many ways did not seem to actually correspond to opposition to this particular bill, which is about providing support for families. Home visitation is a process by which when the child is born, referrals are made. It is done with the consent and the desire of the family to have the home visitation as a family support. So when people said, well, we should be focusing more on supporting families, that's exactly what this is. This is, I understand that that many of the people who testify in opposition have concerns about the CPS system, and certainly this program has very little to do with the CPS system other than actually reducing the rates of child abuse and neglect itself. And it does that by providing supports for families. In fact, the outcomes that you see from the research on home visitation is about, where we actually reduce child abuse and neglect by half, is not because they're reporting things, it's because of support they provide to the families. The other thing I would point out, because it was mentioned by the opposition, is that the original model that was described by David Olds, did use public health nurses, but since that time, and that was a while ago, that was back I think in the 70s, yeah, that was back in the 70s, and people have developed newer models using paraprofessionals. These people are still trained. They may not be full-fledged public health nurses, but they are trained, including in issues around confidentiality and other things. And their job is not to go and collect the data, as it said. Their job is to go and provide support for families and provide them and actually connect them to the community. So I find it also surprising that the opposition is concerned that this is community-based, because I think most of us here don't want a state bureaucracy doing this. They want community-based organizations, community-based folks who are here to help out families who are familiar with the community in which the family lives. So I think that is actually a positive attribute, not a negative attribute of this. So I just want to be clear that this bill is about creating a model and a pilot. I appreciate Senator Berryhill's saying, well, yes, there have been other people who've tried, first 5 commissions and so forth have supported some home visitation programs. But what this bill is about is, again, establishing a model that we can bring out to scale, because I think, as was testified, only 5% of families have been able to avail themselves of this very valuable program, which is proven to not only reduce child abuse and neglect, but actually improve outcomes for children because it provides supports to families. That's what this is about. I heard nothing in the testimony in opposition that said that they didn't like supports for families. And so that is what this bill is about. If we want to have a discussion about the CPS system, that's another bill, that's another topic. That's not what this bill is about. This bill is about providing support to family through an evidence-based approach, home visitation. And with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pan. Okay, so at this point, it's back in the hands of the committee. The chair would entertain a motion to pass the item to appropriations.
Okay. I'll give you a motion. I don't know if I'll be voting for the bill, but I will give you a motion.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so would you please call the roll?
Weiner.
Aye.
Weiner, aye. Berryhill.
No.
Berryhill, no. Glazier. Newman. Nguyen.
Okay, we will keep the roll open. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.